Hello, this is Sherry. Thanks for joining me for a session in working with fashion hues. Today we're going to be antiquing over the pearl essence, and we're also going to incorporate the lovely gold and silver powders into the translucent stains. In advance, I have base coated the fish with the white pearl essence. I did a double coat on that, make sure I got real good coverage. From there, I base coated our background, the art stone portion of the piece, and the base. These are mold numbers 283 for the art stone and mold number 267 for the base. Of course, we've cut the hole out in the back and in the center, so we can use this as a light up if we choose to do so. Once the base coats have dried, again, we use the cream first. You can see where you're going, see where you've been. Follow that when it's dry with the white, the C104 white. You're going to allow that to dry. Of course, you're avoiding the area of the fish where you put the pearl down as a base coat. Once this has all had a chance to dry, you're going to follow up by brushing antiquing solution over the entire piece. You're going to, I prefer a dry brush to do that. It helps to get the antiquing solution into the crevices. If the antiquing solution comes into contact with an area of the bisque that was not sealed, it will present as a discoloration. You will dry that section off completely, reapply your white base coat, allow to dry, and proceed. We're going to start by antiquing the fish. Okay, to antique the fish, I've placed in my palette a small amount of S35 cocoa. Of course, you'll find it very handy to work with the craft sticks. It won't contaminate your color to bring that out. You can use the sticks to stir it around. Also, if you're mixing color, you'll find the craft sticks very handy. Okay, we're going to antique the fish, the portion of the piece that has been base coated in the pearl. In antiquing, I'm going to pick up a small amount of my color. Now, I have placed a very small amount of blending media, and with this cocoa, it will help to make it wipe back easier. In antiquing, we brush the color on, spread it out. A very small amount of color will cover a lot of territory. You'll see inside of these splash marks on the piece, it has little dots. We'll uncover those later. If we cover them, it's not a problem. I'm going to brush our color on, working in small areas. I've cut a shop towel into sixths, and with that I folded a seam-free, wrinkle-free white back cloth. This will help me to antique. At home, feel free to use t-shirt material, anything as long as it's soft, absorbent, and lint-free, you'll find success. I'm going to pat the color, which sets the pigment and absorbs the oil, and I'm going to go ahead and wipe that back. And I've antiqued my fish. I'm going to continue that process throughout. Okay, as you see, I've applied the cocoa color that's had a drop or two of blending media added to it. I'll apply that to the entire section that is the fish, fins, etc. I'm going to pat to set the pigment and absorb the oil. I'm going to wipe to highlight. We're not going to worry too much about the color that gets on the rock section. We'll be working with that later. Right now we're going to decorate the fish. A lot of them is going to be a dark color, but the section is going to be very, very light. I'm going to achieve that light tone by using a little bit of the antiquing solution that we used earlier to test. Take a little bit of blending media in the cloth. Now it's very concentrated, so you're going to want to distribute the antiquing solution throughout the cloth that you're working with. Get it kind of dry off. Now this could literally strip it right back to the base coat. But there are sections that I'm going to want almost white. The belly, for sure, on his fins. And highlighting the remainder of him. We've strictly antiqued. Next, we're going to bring the color up on the fish. Okay, for the skin color of the wide-mouthed bass, we are doing a custom color. I take hunter green and mix in some S23 Mediterranean, about 50-50 mix. I will then take equal parts of silver powder and gold powder. Equal parts of each of those, and I will mix those together to create my dirty green color that's going to be the bass. The straight hunter green is too rich in green. Oops, so this color just makes it a dirty green color. Now we're going to take another dry brush. There's portions of the bass that are going to be left very light, just pearlescent color, but most of it is going to be done with this dirty green. If it sticks too much, we might put a drop of blending media in it. When you put the metallic colors, the gold powder or the silver powder, when you mix those into your regular translucent colors, you create a beautiful metallic look. Sometimes it can be real thick, and so you might want to put a drop of blending media in. This seems to be acting just fine from the blending media that was on there. As you see, I've placed it on his tail. And back with my folded cloth. Pat to set the colors and wipe the highlight. Okay. I'm going to continue to do that throughout the piece. Okay, as you can see in my puddle of paint over here, I did darken my green a bit more. I muddied it up by adding some more of the Mediterranean into the mix. I like what it does for the tone of the green. It really helps to tone it down. Now the fact that I've got the pearl underneath, that color makes it white back nice and easy. So I'm just gonna pat my color, rub a little bit onto the outer flap there. Keep real good control of your cloth that you're using. Fold it to the most appropriate size that you're working in. Make this one a little smaller. Pat it. Wipe to highlight and absorb the excess oils. Pressing. It will maintain a nice shadow down in the crevices just by wiping and highlighting off the top. You'll see that I left the belly of the fish from the fin down all the way around following the curve. Left it in just the antique color, the antique cocoa. Okay, I've gone back and added the bass green, the dirty green. I've added that color to all of my fins, and now I want to wipe them back. So I'm going to do that with a little bit of the antiquing solution worked into the cloth. And I really want to get these lighter, but I do want them to have the tint of the green under them. Really wiping those back, keeping the outer fins a little darker. Go ahead and lighten around the mouth. Kind of even it out a little bit. Okay, now we're ready to proceed with highlighting the markings on the bass. Next step will be identifying some of the markings on the bass. They usually have a very cool pattern of diamond shapes along their top side. So what I've done, I've loaded a little bit of my black translucent color, and I'm going to start, actually I'm going to start here and give a radiate. I'm just tapping the color, give a radiating line. I'm also going to tip the edges with the black. Help to give them a little shadowing, shading, detail. A little bit around the base. I'm doing almost a dry brush technique, pulling the color across, scraping across the tips of the fins, darkening them. And of course, we're going to want to give little triangles. Not triangles, we're doing diamonds. Stipple on a few diamond shapes. And then just do a little line across, follow the contour, give a little line across, go back and check your work. should be just about finished with the fish. For inside the gill area, we're going to want to take some burgundy. A nice soft brush, work the color in nicely. Just do a few little strokes here to give it that blood red look it gets. And down here we're going to want to pull some color. It's blending very nicely in with the green. It's erasing the green, just going on top. With a tiny little detail that'll make a difference. I've placed several colors in my palette. I've put a charcoal gray, I've put Mediterranean brown, a little bit of caramel. In each of these I've applied just a couple drops of blending medium. It really helps to keep the paint open and workable. I'm going to start antiquing my rocks now. Pretty random, these rocks. I'm going to do some sections of color. You'll see I'm brushing it on. I'm going to make sure that it meets into the next segment of color before I pick up another color to blend. First, we're going to take our cloth, pat to set the color, and wipe to highlight. We do the entire background in charcoal gray, and then we're going to add color to that once that's completed. Again, apply your color that has a small amount of blending media in, and complete. Now then, once we've antiqued the entire rock portion with the charcoal color, with a little bit of blending medium, wiped all that off, wiped it back a little extra in places to highlight. Now, and you'll see I'm holding on to the piece with some of our wipe back material simply to keep from transferring the color. What I've done is I've randomly applied the Mediterranean color to a few of the rocks here and there. And of course, you're going to want to make sure and match those rocks up on the base. If you are painting the base, you'll see that there is definitely a right way and a wrong way for the base to fit. What you're going to do, once you've got the color on, brushed on, I didn't paint a lot on, didn't glob on, I applied it very sparingly, press, and wipe to highlight. That will give us some variation in the rocks. And I'm actually going to use a couple more colors and do the same thing. Pat, wipe, giving us a little different texture and look to the rocks for the art stone. I'll show you an update in a few minutes when we've done a couple different colors. Now we've used some of the cocoa color, Mediterranean. Of course, it was antiqued with the original charcoal color. Now I've lightly moistened a cloth with some antiquing solution. I'm just going to brush that across there and blend those colors in nicely. Do the same thing right on the front. Pull up. Not really taking off a lot of the color, just blending it a little bit. Make sure and leave shadows in the crevices. Of course, around your fish you want a shadow. This just gives a nice highlight. And blends those colors in. I'm going to do the same thing on the base. The water splash is a combination of navy blue and teal, equal parts. I'm going to brush this on. Careful not to glob it on. You want to just spread the color out. Feather it onto the splashes up, even though they have color underneath them from when we antiqued the fish. These colored droplets will take over that color beneath it. Now when you're applying it, you want to brush away from your fish. You're being very careful here not to smear the color into your fish. You've got the fish, the color and the markings that you want. So we're just going to be real careful and feather this color on. I like to go ahead and apply to the whole section first, but for the sake of instruction, I will show you that I've brushed it on here. Now I'm going to get a small piece. You'll please note that I am holding on to the piece with one of my cloths in hand. This is to help prevent smearing the color. Now where I've placed the color on the water splash, I'm just going to dot to set the pigment and give it a little highlight to give that water some depth and definition. Even where the splashes on the fish had color on them from when we antiqued the fish, they cleaned up nicely and became the color of the splash of water. I'll show that to you in a minute when we're done. Okay, I have applied all of my color to the water splash. And now very careful to not smear into the rocks and onto the fish. Just simply take a clear section of my cloth, press down and wipe lightly to highlight the water drops. Our piece is now ready to spray seal. Look at it carefully because you can always add color, but once we spray seal it, it's real hard to take away color. So check it over before you spray. There'll be 2 or 3 light coats of flat matte spray. Okay, we have the little guy finished up now. Here's how I did the eyes. We're done first with the metallic bronze, then a starburst pattern with the gold, filled in with black acrylic in the pupil area, highlighted with white acrylic. On the inside of the piece, I did a base coat of a nice royal blue and dry brushed that with a teal. Kind of hard to see, but then I sprayed that with a high gloss spray sealer and sprinkled in some powdered glitter. Once that had a chance to set up nicely and dry, I did a brush on gloss to the water section of the piece. I sprinkled on glitter, clear glitter, allowing it to dry. Once that dried, I brushed off any loose glitter and did a brush on gloss to the entire fish. There he is. Cool. Okay, here's a picture of the little guy with his close-up of his eye. An idea of the rock.